Hey everybody, so happy to be welcoming these three beauties into the world today. Words That Mend, 90 Ways of Community, and Just YA. I want to talk to you about these three books, kind of tell you a little bit about how they came about and how they made it into our world today, where you can access them for free, and if you want a paperback, where you can get one of those for the cost of printing. So let's just dive in a little bit to the story behind these books. So all three of these books kind of took a start pretty far back, but have been in the works for a number of years. But we've been writing these books for a little over a year, each one of them, and I've been doing it with a couple different groups of people. So I think we should start with the first one, which was Words That Mend. So Words That Mend, the transformative power of writing poetry for teachers, students, and community well-being. This book is written with Susan Albrand, Tamara Belko, Barbara Edler, Wendy Everard, Kim Johnson, Jennifer Goyer-Jowett, Denise Krebs, Leela Petrie, and Margaret Simon. These are authors that I hope that you will be hearing more about on social media over the next month as we are launching this book. But the story behind this is pretty simple. We went back, well, maybe not so much. We all met as writers in a couple different places, but predominantly writing poetry together online during COVID-19. And during the pandemic, I have been launching a monthly, annual daily writing experience. At the time, it was just poem a day for a National Writing Project, and I was doing it with my students in junior high. And COVID-19 sort of happened, and everyone was at home quarantining. And it just coincided with National Poetry Month because that was in April, and people started being in isolation in March. And so we started writing poetry together, had a prompt a day, and people were just getting into this space. And we had a huge increase of educators writing poetry during that month. Afterwards, we did a great study called Teachers Writing to Bridge a Distance, and we interviewed a whole bunch of teachers who were writing poetry during that month and how poetry was sustaining for them or healing for them during that time, what sort of things came up for them. And so we have a whole oral history project that's done through Oklahoma State University that you can watch those videos and see teachers reading their poems and talking about how writing those poems helped them. We continued writing poetry after April. People said that let's write a little bit more. We've found such a great community with each other. We want to see each other every month. And so we launched an Open Write, which is a monthly free space for teachers to write poetry get together. And we alternate who writes the prompt each month. And then we just kind of jump into ethical ELA and write for that day. And we do that 5 days a month, usually the third Saturday. So you're welcome to join us there. So we were writing these poems, and we had been doing it for a number of years after COVID. Now it's 2024, and as a group, we were realizing like, wow, we have like such a treasure trove of poetry prompts and mentor texts and all these wonderful things that we should be sharing them with teachers. Now it's all living on ethical ELA. It had been, but that prompted me to start creating what's called a poem tracker and just trying to like download all the different poetry prompts since 2019, all from the 30 days in April plus the 5 days every month. And we had hundreds of poetry prompts and hundreds of great mentor texts and lessons and things like that too. So as a community, and I think there's probably over 100 people that write, educators that do this, but there's sort of a core regular group who does it every month that we can count on, that's there every month, and some who kind of come and go, and some who are just there in April. And I sent out an email to anybody and said, like, there's been some interest in doing something with these poetry prompts. Let's have a meeting to see what ideas we have. Let's brainstorm and see what people want to do with these poetry prompts. So as a group, we started sorting them and labeling them like through complexity and topic and form and free verse and things like that. And then we started thinking like, well, what can we do to help teachers use these prompts a little bit better? And that's where we sort of started brainstorming different book ideas. And Words That Mend was one of the books. 90 Ways of Community is another one. And there's a couple more in the works, so stay tuned, you'll find out more. But this book we conceptualized in three ways. First is teachers, Words That Mend, the power of writing poetry for teachers. The key thing that came out of the pandemic for us, and I think maybe it's always been there, but we just kind of came more to the surface because with the World Wide Web, we're in each other's living rooms, in each other's dining rooms, and sometimes in each other's bathrooms, like connecting through technology in that way and through our poetry. So our lives, our personal lives were like pushed into the open because we weren't in our classrooms anymore. We were teaching from our kitchen tables and things like that. So what we discovered in writing poetry is that is honoring the lives, the personal lives, the complex lives of teachers as just human beings, teachers who fall in love, teachers who fall out of love and get divorced, teachers who have babies, teachers who have miscarriages, um, teachers who send their kids off to school and have empty nest, and teachers who take care of their elderly parents and are navigating Alzheimer's, teachers who have parents living in another country in a war zone and still have to show up to work every day, right? Teachers who are having sort of an identity crisis about whether or not they want to be a teacher anymore. Teachers who have maybe mental health issues or concerns or body issues or concerns or teachers who have lots of tension at home in their marriage uh, or are having like joyful moments of rediscovery of who they are as they get a little bit older. It's just the life that teachers live beyond the classroom that are not honored and yet inform who we are and the way that we take care of other people's children when we're teaching and planning and all of that just like rich life of a teacher. So this first part of the book is teachers writing these stories about how poetry has helped them heal from any number of the things that I just mentioned. The second part of this book is teachers writing poetry with students. And this part is when we bring these prompts into our classroom, what happens when we invite students to write poetry? And I'm going to be the first to tell you, there's not enough poetry in the classrooms, in the English language arts classrooms at all. And sometimes it's just April, right? But if there is it poetry, there's reading poetry, or they're forced to dissect a poem or apply a mnemonic device to interpret a poem correctly, or do that for some high stakes test or something like that. And if there's any writing, it's writing in the service of like learning a new poetry form or something like that to show that they can follow rules and meter and things. And it's not for nurturing what poets are inside of our students or what they can do with form and rhythm and word choice and different topics and how the phrases that they choose and the white space that they choose on their page tells a different story and captures a different scene of their lives that they're living or that they imagine that they live. All this beautiful stuff about writing poetry. So yeah, I could go on and on about this. So this middle section of the book is about teachers writing poetry with their students in a lot of different ways. And so there's several sections of that. And the last section is community. So teachers, students, and community well-being and how writing poetry with these other people in the teacher community, in the teacher-student community, in the teacher-student neighborhood, school, public community is healing and it's worth doing for the sake of what poetry can do for our hearts and mind. So this last section is thinking about how teachers have taken their writing of poetry or the poetry work that they're doing into spaces beyond the school. And so we have one example of Barbara who's trying spoken word in her community in Iowa, and we have Kim who is taking poetry into her community, hosting open mics at the local coffee shop and putting QR codes in the windows of neighborhoods to link teachers or anyone passing by to use the QR code to find a poem. All of that wonderful thing. And then we have Melissa, who's in Belize, who's doing some great things with poetry too. So it's not just the US, it's international. So we have some of that. In this, we have, with every story that we tell about the healing powers of poetry, we also include a lesson for you to use in your classroom. So it has a prompt, it has a mentor text, it has some suggestions for how to use it in your classroom, in addition to tons of beautiful poetry written by teachers for teachers or for their students or for themselves or for their own healing. So there's just a ton of beautiful pieces in here. And then we also have a few little short pieces about teachers reflecting on poetry in their lives as well, who are not mentioned on the cover, but are within and also wanted to contribute to the book as well. So that's Words That Mend. You know, it's beautiful. You can read it in any order, and this is available in paperback anywhere books are sold, and then also for free on Ethical ELA, which at the end, I'm going to take you to the website and show you how you can download this for free. So lots of tips for that. Here it is. It's a proof copy, so it's hard to see. Okay, this is the next one, 90 Ways to Community. 90 Ways to Community, nurturing safe and inclusive classrooms, writing one poem at a time. It's a great companion to Words That Mend. It doesn't have the long narrative writing that's in this one. This one is, teachers, why we write part one. This is teachers telling their stories. So it has like narrative in here where you can step into the shoes of a teacher and really follow their experience with writing poetry. This one is much more of a hands-on practical guide for teachers to infuse writing in their classroom on a daily basis. So this is a great companion for that. This one is co-written with Mo Daly and Maureen Young Ingram. So the three of us took this huge collection of prompts that we have had over the last 5 years, so hundreds and hundreds of poetry prompts written and contributed by many teachers, or over a few hundred teachers, and thousands of poems. We have thousands of poems written by teachers that are just beautiful. And so we worked through this collection and sifted through them and sorted them in a way that we thought would be really useful for any classroom teacher, primarily middle through high school, any classroom teacher to pick up this book and start at the beginning of the school year and had poems that followed you through the entire school year. So we're happy to be launching this September 2nd because we're thinking this is early in the school year. Some people have been in class for a couple weeks, some are just starting. So the first part of this book is how to set up kind of these routines for writing a poem a day or a couple poems a week or just a poem once a week or something like that. The idea is that we don't want you just writing poems during National Poetry Month and in April. We don't want you to discover in April that you have poets in your classroom who really love it. And we don't want you to wait until April to realize how writing poetry can help with every other kind of genre they have to write. If students are really confident writing a range of poems on a range of topics and they know what to do with the blank page and how to get started, they're going to be able to do that, transfer that language skills, that rhythm of skills, that word choice, that concise word choice that happens with poetry to narrative and argument and informational writing and analytic writing, all the different things. But we don't want you to wait until April to figure out how great poetry is. We want you to use it from the beginning. So here it is. The first section is how to set up your classroom to do like this daily or weekly lesson. And it's step-by-step guided with notes and tips. There's like a sample lesson plan here. And we give you like some narration on how you might do that, especially if you're unfamiliar with poetry or you're nervous about doing it. And then we offer you some routines for sharing the poetry like very informally with the students so they can get to know each other, and then building up to some other assessments that you can use poetry for throughout the school year, because we know some of you have to use grades and things like that and want to have a good rationale. So the whole first section is about that. And then we organize the rest of the book into different sections. And we organize them so we have 90 or first, like, all right, we had like 180. We thought you're going to do a poem every day. And first of all, the book would have been really long. And second, it would have been overwhelming. And we thought teachers might feel like they need to, if they're falling behind if they're not doing it every day, or it's too much to do every day. So we figured, if you do like, 15 a month, something kind of along those lines, or you have plenty to choose from. So we organized it around the first section. It's called Celebrating Selves, and there's 15 different prompts that you can use early in the school year where you're getting to know your students. All these poems help you get to know your students a little bit better. So, things about like where they're from, or who makes them happy, or places that make them feel safe, things that they love, parts of themselves that they want to celebrate, memories and how they felt about those things, who they are inside, all that kinds of stuff. And you can get to know them as they write these poems. Some are very silly, some are kind of serious. They can be whatever they need to be. And we talk to you through how to adapt them and how to talk through the prompts. Okay, the second section is called Becoming Us. So we figure after a month or two of school, students are starting to get to know each other better, or maybe they're not, and this nudges them toward creating more of a classroom community instead of maybe some cliques or cohorts that might be developing in the classroom. This helps them get to know one another and recognize all the beautiful assets and funds of knowledge and joys and backgrounds and interests and expertise that are in the room, and they start to recognize and celebrate that in one another. So this Becoming Us is a bunch of poems, is 15 different prompts to surface all of that beautiful ways of being that you have in your classroom as a community. The next section is called Extending Our Community. So it's thinking about the school and the neighborhood a little bit more broadly, the families that are at home. And so this is a little bit more, this is going to get you into like November and December and give you some prompts around the holidays and Thanksgiving, but also as students are spending more time with maybe family members or extended family members, the feelings that are stirred up when we do that, when we have to maybe see family members that there might be tension, family members that we love, that make us feel really cozy and that we love and learn a lot from. So that middle section is really about like rituals and traditions and the holidays. The next section we thought about like in January and February when kids come back from break and teachers come back from break, we have some prompts that we name as healing ways. And these are a bunch of prompts that are just about recognizing that we might be into the second half of the school year. We might be more tired. We might be run down from the holidays. We might be starting to get nervous about the testing season that's coming, or we might be feeling any sorts from the weather being colder, any of those kinds of things. So that next section is really about health and well-being, a lot of mental health and well-being, but not explicitly. It's just prompts to get us thinking about that. Then as we're moving into, February, March, we're focusing on walking the world. So you see us, we're going from self to class, to family, and to mental health, and now we're thinking broadly about the world. So this is a global focus about thinking national news, global news, issues in the world that are impacting us and things like that. So it really promotes inquiry. And so we have some really great prompts for students to do a little exploration of the news, a little exploration of what's going on in the world, and connect that with poetry. Using poetry as a way of synthesizing that and making sense of it. The last section leading us into the end of the school year, May or June, is reflecting on how we've changed as poets and how we've developed as poets and what we're noticing about ourselves and the ways that we write and all of those things. And so we have some fun different topics here and different forms to explore with. along the way. So that takes us through the whole year. And for each section, Maureen, and I, we write a letter to you, dear teacher letter, talking about what might be happening in your classroom around this time. Now, it's organized in that way, but you don't have to use it in that way. You can jump around as much as you want, pick and choose. You don't have to do all the prompts. They're just meant to work in a lot of different ways, and they all follow the same format. So in everything you'll see the prompt is on one page and the mentor text is on the other. And every page looks like this. So you have a lesson and a mentor text to look at. It's like it's all done for you for the whole year. And it's done by like teachers who love teachers and who use these in their classroom and has written these poems. And it's included, like we have so many poems written by incredible educators. So they have written these things. We've written them with our students. It's tried and true, and it's all in this book for you. And then the last section is just a conclusion, and we give you some ideas for how to like reflect on everything that you've done together and have sort of a showcase or a portfolio that celebrates all the poets in your room. And we really hope that you've been doing some of the writing too, and that you have lots to celebrate in your writing. So that is 90 Ways of Community. And we have a ton of incredible authors and some, even an appendix with some things that you can use in your classroom and some definitions and things like that too. So that is a great resource that we hope that you love. Also totally free, totally free. You can download it for free or you can buy a paperback if you want that. Are you still with us? Okay, we have one more book. So thanks for staying with us to hear about our 3 books that are coming out into the world today. Here's the next one, Just YA. I'm getting ready. So this one, Just YA, has another story. It's a little bit different than the first 2. So the origin of Just YA was my students at OSU. In particular, the class I was teaching this time in 2023, it was the Teaching of Secondary Readers course. And part of that course is that we spend the first 8 weeks learning how to, learning some teaching reading strategies and assess reading needs and assets of our students and how to support them as readers and nurture their reading life. Things that they need, but also things that they want to extend and explore, and how do we set up our classroom to do that. And the second half is the pre-service teachers at OSU, they start tutoring an actual middle or high school teacher, and they design lessons week to week around the students' interests and include a variety of genres so that they can say, if I'm interested in sports, for example, then I can read an article about sports, a poem, an essay, some fiction. And so the students are interested in a specific topic, but our job as the teachers help extend to show how that topic lives in different genres and forms. And one of the problems that we ran into, or that became very apparent to me, was that when we're working with students or teaching in 45-minute blocks or maybe we have an hour, sometimes we have longer, but typically a class period is 45, 50 minutes. It's not a lot of time to read a whole piece of writing start to finish. And when we're teaching, youth, who likes to be just read the beginning and then have to come back the next day, or maybe if there's an assembly or a long weekend, we have to wait to read the next part of the story and then we get disconnected from it. So, and also when we're an instructor or we're teaching, we want to be able to show the whole of something so that we can unpack the meaning of a symbol or the theme. You can't teach theme if you don't get to the ending. You might notice some trends in what you're reading or that symbols might be approaching, but you don't know that it's a symbol until you've read the whole thing and see how the symbol changes in meaning throughout or how it reflects the theme. And we don't know what the theme is until we know how the characters have solved or not solved the problem. And also, how are you going to know the closure or the key aha of a poem or an essay if you don't get to the ending? So we wanted to really look for texts that you could get through, uncover, and really have enough time to think about and discuss and enjoy start to finish in a class period. And our students were struggling to do that, to find those texts that were also appropriate for middle and high school students. So we ended up finding a lot in flash fiction and brevity, which is a wonderful collection of short form pieces of writing. But I had a hard time finding that in young adult literature and middle grade literature. We unpacked, we found a ton of anthologies. I love anthologies. I love young adult literature and anthologies, especially from We Need Diverse Books. We include those in our young adult literature class here at OSU every semester. I love these pieces, but some are 20 pages, 15 to 20 pages. It's still too much to do in a 45-minute class period. So that is really important. We want to have that for choice reading. We might want to have that for a longer unit of instruction, but when we're doing mini lessons or we have short, maybe want to do a collection of a text set, like several texts that are related to each other, we need some short pieces. So that's the long introduction to me saying, like, where are these for our middle and high school students? And I couldn't find one. So I launched a YA anthology project with the Oklahoma State University Open OK State, which is like an open educational resource branch or website, yes, that we have at the Oklahoma State University libraries. And so they have this online Pressbook site that they can make literature and textbooks open and available to students for free. And so I wanted to make it accessible, searchable, free for teachers, and I wanted it available soon so that we could use it for the next time I taught the class, and then also to make it available to all the teachers. And so the way that I did that was a way that I actually did for this other book, Rhyme and Rhythm, Poems for Student Athletes, is I started inviting my favorite young adult literature authors, especially ones who wrote sports fiction, to contribute a poem to this. So that's what I did for Just YA. I started conceptualizing all the different kinds of themes, or some of the themes that come up again and again when we're organizing units of instruction or curriculum at middle or high school. We talk about love, we talk about family, we talk about land, we talk about the world, we talk about relationships. Did I say that already? The future. So we have science fiction that we read. We have Romeo and Juliet that we read. We have historical fiction that we read. We have issues about climate change that we sometimes read about. We have things about well-being and mental health and friendships and all of those kind of things that's in all the literature that we read. And I thought, why don't we organize short text around some of those themes to make it really easy for the teachers to find poems, essays, fiction that they can infuse into their classroom really easy, and again, for free. So I put out that call to all of my young adult author friends and asked them to share it with their friends. And I went on the Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and I shared a call for short pieces. So poems under 20 lines, flash fiction, fiction under 1,000 words, essays under 1,000 words, things that you could read in a class period. And we got a ton of really beautiful submissions. And then I realized that we were kind of still needing some things in flash fiction because it's not a typical form that young adult authors write in, because there hasn't been a market for that up until now, just short stories, right, or full novels. So I reached out to the brevity authors. There's a whole website for flash fiction. There's several of those, and brevity authors, and asked, like, do you have any short fiction that would be appropriate for middle and high school students and that you've already written or that you might write? And so then we got even more contributions from these flash fiction writers and creative nonfiction writers as well. So that added more. And then I reached out to some of my teacher poet friends, and I invited them to, I thought, do you have any short fiction in you? Because some of them have also written novels. I know a lot of them has written poems, some essays. So I invited teacher poets to do that as well. And after I started this last December, I think, I started Open the Call and got some collection kind of happening. And within 6 months, we had like 150, 200 submissions, which was incredible. So the next step that we did was I organized an advisory board of high school classroom teachers, middle school teachers, young adult literature scholars, and graduate students. And we read all of these with a rubric, a little guidance to think about making sure that these were youth-centered, so they were about youth, or that they might inspire youth to think about something new in a new way, that they were short, of course, that they were inclusive and affirming and had joy, representation of youth doing things with their capacity, with all of their capacity, instead of being kind of stereotypical youth complaining about something, or how sometimes how we see them represented as being moody or something like that. We wanted to see the truth of the students that we have, who are capable, who are activists, who are smart, who are funny, who are creative, who fall in love, who have intimacy, who figure things out. We wanted these kinds of stories of youth who live in different kind of bodies, in different places, and have different ways of thinking and approaching the world and moving around the world. We wanted a whole representation as best as we could, and to try to fit them into this book, if not multiple books. So that's what we did. We sifted through them, we celebrated them, we asked for a few revisions, and then we made this collection pretty quickly, in part because it was going to be living digitally and online, obviously, so it didn't have to go through a whole publication process. However, we did end up taking things from paper into the digital world, which I'm going to share with you in just a second. And then we are making a paperback version of it. It's not quite the same, but it has a lot of the similar things if you want to hold on to it and search it as well. And so, let's see, do I have just anything to say about that? Okay, it's a beautiful book, but you probably want to know, like, how do you access and how do you find these things? So I'm going to show you. All right, everybody. So I'm going to show you how to access all of the books for free. And so the first step is you can just go to ethicalela.com, and it will take you right here. This is our home. You can learn about this website, you can subscribe, you can explore our different things. We have our April Verse Love, our monthly open write, and I have tons of things on resources for writing workshop as well. And these are like our most recent prompts, so you can explore that there. When we have an open write coming up, so we'll have one in September, this will change. It will say September, the third Saturday in September. If you want to write with us, you just click here and you start writing with us. But we were going to show you the store today. And it's not the same kind of store where you buy things. It's just these 3 books are here and they are for free. Do you see? 0, 0, 0. My other young adult novel is also here, 0. Voices, Garden of Voices, it's from our tutoring program. It's also here for free. You're not going to have to include any kind of credit card information or anything like that. You just add it to your cart, and then you enter your email and address, and then you get an automatic email with a free PDF, and then a link to the Google Doc so that you can copy and paste and share these things to your Google Classroom or your Canva or whatever. Canva. Anyway, so right now it's not open yet because it's coming soon on September 2nd. So that's there. The second thing I want to show you is that this is the open education resource. So this is at openlibrary.okstate, and you can see the cover here, and here are all of our incredible young adult authors who have contributed, and our brevity fiction and creative nonfiction authors. Down here you can see it's open access, so you can read them in a single class period. It's around certain themes. You can download this, you can share it, you can search it. Each poem, each essay has its own link. Here's the table of contents, so you can see how it's organized by theme. And then let's just say, we'll just click on this first one, A Place to Breathe by Cherokee author Christine Hartman Durr. And here's her poem for you, and a little bit about her work and where you can find it. And it says the resource is no cost to you. And up here, if you want to share this with your student, you just copy and paste this particular poem. You can also copy and paste the poem, share it, put the link to your classroom or learning management system. You might want to tell your school district about it so that they don't block it if there's any sort of firewall or something like that. but then you will also have access to a PDF, so you can also just make, you know, paper copies of it too. You can just like copy and paste it to a Word document. Students can annotate it, any of those things. So here's all of the table of contents. And then I want to show you one more feature. See, you can see it by love, by land, by world, by futures, and here's a teacher's guide. So in here, I have created a whole bunch of materials for you and lesson plans that you can use. So a pair share, a lesson on characterization using a place poem, a lesson on tone, literature circles, how to read poetry, a vocabulary lesson, how to use this whole anthology in your classroom as part of your choice reading program, how to use vlogging as a way of doing reading response, like any number of things there. So all of that is there for you. Whew, so there we are, 3 books coming out into the world today for you for free from teachers who did everything completely for free out of the generosity of their hearts, their own time, that we met weekly over the course of a year to do this writing. Authors donated their time, their writing, like nobody got paid for any of these things. And so they are here for you teachers because we love you and we think that you're really important and we think that you deserve free stuff and you deserve free resources and we know that you need them. These paperbacks, however, are not free. You do have to go to any store, any online, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. We encourage you to order them from your library, like ask your local library to buy them, go to your local bookstore, ask them to get it. They'll make a little bit of money off it because they're selling it and they have to pay the print cost to it. So these might cost $11 at a store. They might cost, you know, $7 on Amazon. We're not making any money off of these. It's just for the cost, whatever it costs to print them and to sell them. But that's it. We're just making that in case you want it. Otherwise, the whole point is for it to be free to you that you can have in your classroom. So, okay. Please share your joy in the comment section. Tell me how excited you are. Tell me what you're going to read. And then we'd like to invite you to our book launch celebration, which is going to be live on the YouTube September 22nd, I think. I think it's noon Pacific Coast, 2 o'clock Central Coast. But just stay tuned. Follow us on social media so you can be a part of it. And then we hope that when you come to that celebration that you share your favorite poems or tell us stories of how you use these in the classroom, or maybe if you've written some poetry and your students have written poetry, like that would be fantastic too. So we'll see you next time.